According to a 2011 survey by Harris Interactive, 93% of Americans wish to change something in their lives. For example, 57% of people reported that they want to lose weight, while 50% said they want to eat healthier, and 52% said they want to save more money. While the American Psychological Association study tried to find out what stopped most people from doing what they wish to do, most participants pointed to one elephant: willpower. Now, according to this CBS News article, in a study of 1 million people, most people said their greatest weakness is self-control. We all have dreams, aspirations, and goals. In fact, most of us believe that we can achieve our goals because we see other people who have achieved similar goals. However, to achieve a new level of success, we oftentimes need to become a different person. In his 2010 book, No Excuses: The Power of Self-Discipline, Brian Tracy wrote, and I quote, "Perhaps the most important insight of all with regards to success is that to achieve greatly, you must become a different person. Becoming a different person means you have to start doing things that may not be comfortable. Doing things that are not comfortable always requires willpower, which most of us lack. Now, here's the good news. Scientific studies have shown that willpower can be learned. And in fact, there's a simple formula that can drastically increase your willpower on anything you wish to accomplish. I call this formula the why magic. And that's what I am going to teach you in this video. To understand how why magic works, I'd like to tell you an interesting story. In the year 1504, the 19-year-old Spaniard named Hernan Cortes gave up his studies in law and decided to sail around his country's colonies. Cortes sailed to Haiti and the Dominican Republic, then to Cuba. However, when he heard about Mexico and its gold, Cortes told himself that one day he would fight and conquer Mexico to take their land. Over the next 10 years, Cortes slowly rose through the ranks, eventually becoming secretary to the Spanish governor of Cuba, and then the king's treasurer for the island. In the year 1518, the opportunity Cortes was waiting for showed itself when the governor of Cuba, Diego de Velázquez, made him the leader of an expedition to discover what had happened to his earlier explorers, find gold, and lay the groundwork for the country's conquest. But at the last minute, the governor became suspicious of Cortes and wanted to stop him from going to Mexico. When Cortes perceived that the opportunity he had waited for more than a decade was about to be taken from him, he managed to slip out of Cuba in the middle of the night with 11 ships. In March of 1519, Cortes and his men landed on Mexico's east coast and spent the next few weeks studying the enemies they wanted to fight. But then, Hernan Cortes found himself with one problem. 3 big problems, actually. Problem number 1, some of the 500 men he had left Cuba with were spies who worked for the Cuban governor, Velázquez. Problem number 2, he was having just 500 men with him, and he needed to fight about 500,000 soldiers. And, of course, yes, problem number 3, Cortes' military experience was almost non-existent. He wasn't even a military general, even though he had participated in some wars in the past. How do you fight a group of 500,000 men with just 500 men who are not united when you're not even a military general? Knowing that he would be doomed except something drastic was done, Cortes destroyed the ships he and his men depended on for escape. There they were, 500 men who had just 2 options: to fight and win, or to fight or perish. With his few men, Cortes led an expedition that caused the fall of the Aztec Empire and brought large portions of what is now mainland Mexico under the rule of King of Castile. The moral of this story: 99% of the time when you feel you don't have the willpower to do something is because you don't have an urgent, pressing, life or death reason to do it. Cortes' men were divided. They argued and fought among themselves. They even accused their leader of insanity when he told them they'll have to fight 500,000 men. But guess what? All of these excuses were reasonable only because they still had their ships and they could escape at any time. At the moment when they saw their ships destroyed and their lives at stake, they suddenly had the willpower to fight, because they now know why they must fight. I call this the why magic. Whenever you know why you must do something, why not doing such a thing is dangerous, risky, or destructive, you'll suddenly have the drive and the motivation to do it. In his book, Maxims and Arrows, Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Most humans are not lazy. Most of us have everything it takes to pursue our dreams. The only thing stopping many of us is the why, the pressing need, the sense of do or die.
I'm on government assistance, and I run out of money, and I had to buy Pampers for Jelani. And I had $11.42 in the bank. And I remember wrapping my son in a towel for 2 days. I remember the second day, like you said, I had my hand on Jelani's stomach, and I said, "Don't worry, baby. Mommy will never be this broke or broken again." And that day, what shifted for me was I was willing, and I don't know if this is going to sound crazy, I was willing to completely die to any form of me that I had been.
In 1943, two psychologists, Clark Hall and Kenneth Spence, had the first interest in the idea of drive theory. In their laboratory experiments, two groups of rats were deprived of food, one group for 3 hours and the other for 22 hours. Hall proposed that the rats that were without food the longest will have more motivation, thus a higher level of drive to obtain the food reward. The drive theory then concludes that you'll never stand up to make the sacrifice for what you want in life except you're desperately hungry for that thing you want.
There was a young man who, he wanted to make a
power to lose weight, except you know why you must lose weight. You will not have the willpower to save money, except you know why you must save money. You'll not have the willpower to start a business, except you know why you must start a business. And when I use the word must, I mean do or die. In the year 1926, Viktor Frankl presented a public lecture in Frankfurt, Berlin, and for the first time he propounds the idea of logotherapy as a meaning-centered approach to mental healing. Starting from there, several scientific studies have found that people who know the why of anything always have a better outcome. For example, in a 2007 study, Adam Grant and his team found that employees perform better if they know why or the purpose of their works. In this study, Adam and his team arranged for one group of call center workers to interact with scholarship students who were the recipients of the school's fundraising largesse. A month later, callers who had interacted with the scholarship students spent more than 2 times as many minutes on the phone and brought in vastly more money, a weekly average of $503.22, up from $185.94. In his book, Start With Why, How Great Leaders Inspire Everyone to Take Action, Simon Sinek wrote, "People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it."
What does that mean? You're a nut. You're crazy in the coconut. What does that mean? That boy needs therapy.
It means beyond motivating yourself to do what you need to do, motivating others also requires getting them to know the why. And I know, many people seem to know why they want to do what they wish to do. I mean, the person who wants to start a business can tell you, "I want to start a business because it will give me freedom and money." The person who wants to lose weight might say, "I want to lose weight because it will make me healthier or more beautiful." The problem, however, is that most whys are weak, and this is how you'll know if your why is weak. You'll have options. For example, people would say, "I want to start a business so that I can be rich, but if I'm able to get a good job, that shall be fine. I want to eat healthier, but I also want to enjoy myself since I'm still young." Whenever you want to change something in your life and still have options or feel it's not that urgent, then you'll never have the willpower to do what you ought to do.
A normal day for me is wake up around 12, figure out something I'm going to eat immediately, TV, video games, bed. It's not a lot of activity. It's hot. It's hot in Georgia.
Now, let me suggest a few things that will give you unbelievable willpower to pursue any dream and achieve anything you want. For example, after spending 2.5 years in a polytechnic, I decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, not an accountant. With everything I've read about entrepreneurship, I knew that what I wanted to do would be as difficult as hell. I knew there was a likelihood of me giving up after a few failures, so I did the unthinkable. I left school without any degree or certificate. In my country, that's like destroying your entire life, because nobody is ever going to hire you without a degree. So there I was on July 24th, 2008, at age 21 and a half. The only two options I had were to figure out how to build a successful business of my own or die trying to do it. Needless to say, I did it after 8 long years of failure. Now, listen. Options make us weak. We lack motivation, make excuses, and give up easily if there's something else we can run to. To prevent this from happening, you have to artificially cut off every option and put yourself in a do-or-die mode. In his 4th century BC book, The Art of War, Sun Tzu wrote, "Put your soldiers in a spot where they have no place to go, and they will die before fleeing. If they are to die there, what can they not do?" If you put yourself in a desperate mode, when every other option is cut off, when the name of the game is do or die, you'll have the willpower to achieve almost anything. The second way to increase your willpower is to choose a path that is aligned with your intrinsic value. You see, there are 2 types of motivation: intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is when you have an internal drive to do something, while extrinsic motivation is when you want to do something because of some external pressure. For example, let's call this guy James and this guy Steve. Let's say both James and Steve want to become successful basketball players, but they have different motivations. James wants to become a successful basketball player primarily because he finds great joy in playing basketball, while Steve wants to become a successful basketball player because he wants to make a lot of money to buy fast cars. Because James' motivation is intrinsic, that is, comes from within him, he's likely to have greater willpower to pursue his dream than Steve. Another example is if you want to lose weight because you like to be healthy, or you want to lose weight because someone says you're ugly. Trying to lose weight because you love to be healthy is an intrinsic motivation, and it's likely to give you more willpower than if your reason is that someone says that you're ugly. The third thing you can do to have great willpower is to create enemies for yourself. Let me explain this with a story. When Ted Williams was 8 years old, around the year 1925, he was taught how to throw a baseball by his uncle, Saul Venza. Ted fell in love with baseball, and to perform well, Ted figured that he needed some enemies. So he would insult the sport writers and newsmen, making them write bad things about him, and expect him to fail. Because he had created some enemies, this will make him restless, train hard, and feel like he must win or die. Ted Williams went on to play 19-year Major League Baseball before World War II interrupted his career, and today he is regarded as one of the greatest hitters in baseball history. Imagine you entered a baseball court to play, and about 10,000 people in that stadium hate you so much they want you to lose. How likely are you to lose? In such a situation, most of us would rather sacrifice our lives than let our enemies rejoice. Think about Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali spent his entire career verbally attacking his opponents. This attitude made a lot of people hate him, and because of this, he knew he must win or his enemies would rejoice.
Do you ever get into the ring hating the man you're
No,
going to fight?
never.
Do you get in with anxiety or fear?
I'm nervous because of the talking that I do, and I have to back it up. I think about people. I'm on a hell of a spot. I'm on a heck of a spot.
Because Ali had created a lot of enemies for himself, he was forced to train hard, sleep less, and have more willpower to win. As humans, we hate to fail in front of our enemies. So if you need the motivation to do something, try and create some enemies. You'll become restless. You'll lose your sleep. You practice hard and become aggressive, just because you'll never want to see your enemy making fun of you. On page 50 of his book, The 33 Strategies of War, Robert Greene wrote, "Do not sit back and wait for people to get aggressive. Irritate them deliberately. Feeling cornered by a multitude of people who dislike you, you'll fight like hell." Creating enemies in this sense can be as simple as sharing your dreams with people you know don't believe in you. These people will tell you that you can't do it, and now you've found someone you need to prove wrong. The willingness to prove someone wrong can boost your motivation because your brain actually likes to prove a point. The fourth thing that can increase your willpower is to focus on the future, not the present. In his 2017 book, The Science of Self-Discipline, Peter Hollins wrote, and I quote, "Having self-discipline and willpower is the ability to do difficult or unpleasant things, because those things are better for your well-being in the long run." Generally, people who focus on the future benefits of their actions have the willpower to make sacrifices in the present. George S. Patton came from one of America's most distinguished military families. His ancestors included generals and colonels who had fought and died in the American Revolution and the Civil War. Raised on stories of their heroism, he followed in their footsteps and chose a career in the military. But Patton was also a sensitive young man, and he had one deep fear, that in battle he will turn coward and disgrace the family name. Patton had his first real taste of battle in 1918 at the age of 32, during the Allied offensive on the Argonne during World War I. He commanded a tank division, and at one point during the battle, Patton managed to lead some American infantrymen to a position on a hilltop overlooking a strategic town, where German fire forced them to take cover. Soon it became clear they were trapped. If they retreated, they would come under fire from positions on the sides of the hill. If they advanced, they would run right into a battery of German machine guns. If they were all to die, as it seemed to Patton, better to die advancing. At the moment he was to lead the troops in the charge, however, Patton was stricken by intense fear. His body trembled, and his legs turned to jelly. In a confirmation of his deepest fears, he had lost his nerve. Well, at that instant, looking into the clouds beyond the German batteries, Patton remembered his illustrious military ancestors. For him to show fear at that point was to disgrace the family name. Now he knew why he must be brave. "It is time for another Patton to die," he said, as he stood up and charged towards the German guns. Seconds later, he fell, hitting the thigh, but he survived the battle and moved on in the military to become a general. George S. Patton's ability to advance despite the obvious danger and fear came only because he remembered the reason why he must do it. Whether it's Cortes, Ted Williams, Muhammad Ali, George Patton, or anybody who dares difficult things, changes their lives, or achieves success, willpower only goes to the people who know why they must do what they did. If you want to start a business and you can't get yourself to start, it's likely because you're yet to figure out why you must start. Whether you want to save more, lose weight, or change anything at all in your life, you'll never have the willpower to do it until you know why you must do it. This is because most of us prefer the comfort we're enjoying right now. So until we get to the point of do or die, we'll not dare the unknown or make ourselves uncomfortable. To drive yourself to the point of do or die, here are a few things I recommend. First, cut off every other option and put yourself in a desperate mode. Second, let your motivation come from within, not from external pressure. Third, create a few enemies who will tell you that you can succeed. Usually, you'll want to prove them wrong. And fourth, focus on the future benefit of your present actions. Thanks for watching.